He's going to come up and say a few well-chosen words to launch this. Brian.
Thank you all very much for coming, and it's great to see you all here. You're great to make the journey and give your support. I've written down a few things here because I'll probably forget what I'm going to say, and if I do, blankly look, just click your fingers and say, Brian, read the notes, because I have them here and I'll read them. So basically, I suppose a lot of you probably heard about this through emails or West Cork Gospel or whatever, and your first reaction probably was, what? The GutterPress, the what? You've probably never heard of it. And, or maybe you did. But I just want to explain what it is, so everybody knows what it is. So that would be a good place to start. You might think it's something to do with the GutterPress, something to do with Rupert Murdoch and sleazy journalism and mobile hacking and pastry girls. Well, it is, and we're working on all that. And as soon as I figure out how to work on my own mobile phone, I'll be able to promise you we'll do all the rest of the hacking and all that. It's on its way. But basically, to start with, it began with basically losing my job and needing urgently to make some money, like an awful lot of other people. And so I was trying to figure out ways to earn money, and I knew that in a recession people like escapism, they like to be amused. So comedy would be a good idea, and I was thinking of ways, how do you sell comedy? And it was films. You can make a comedy film, but then I was wondering about the budget in Bantry Credit Union. Were they prepared to, how far were they willing to go on that one? And TV is very hard to get into, and I'm 55 and I want to be still alive by the time they actually go to broadcast the old. And so I went down to the very list, magazines, books, all the rest, and I finally came up with the idea of a newspaper. Because a newspaper is something that everybody knows how to buy. Everybody's bought a newspaper. It's very simple thing. So why not try a newspaper? Well, most newspapers, as you probably know, are all they've got lots of serious stuff in the front and even more serious stuff in the back. And in the middle, you might get a little bit of entertaining and music stuff and so on. And so I thought, why not a newspaper that's the other way around? Lots of funny stuff in the front, funny stuff in the back, and maybe a little bit of serious stuff in the middle. So that's what it's kind of like. And of course the reasons are, we're basically exposing, you can then find exposing income and social basis, which we hope we provide income for other people as well. At the moment, people are on selling it and actually putting in projects or messages and so on. And hopefully carry on from there and grow. But there's also the question of comedy. And do we get enough comedy? Do you feel that enough comedy? Maybe so. Okay, well,
welcome to Ballygowan.
Well, that's a serious books coming out. If you weigh up all the very books about misery in the 1950s, which is very popular for some reason, and you put it on a weighing scales with all the books about comedy on the other side, the misery ones are definitely outweigh the comedy ones. So it'd be a good idea if we can encourage people to write comedy. And I have a theory, actually, I don't know if we have time about why we have so many books about misery in the 1950s, but I can spare you that if you want.
Go on.
Okay.
You pay me afterwards.
Right, you got to visualise an apartment in New Jersey. And there's a guy there who emigrated from Ireland in the 1950s. And he's sitting there with his Budweiser and his hamburger, and the wife beside him on the settee in the curlers, and they're watching TV, some game show, and the police sirens and ambulances are going by down below, about a mile down the street. And he's got the tune sort of Sweet Molly back in Bally such and such going around his head, and occasionally you kind of wonder, did I make the right decision? And at that moment, he might reach for the New Yorker magazine and read a William Trevor short story about misery in the 1950s and Angela's Ashes. I said, God, I'm glad I got out of there. And that's why. And then he goes out and buys more of that stuff because it makes you feel good. So you have a market for misery. But see, do you have a market for comedy? And that's what I was thinking. Well, maybe we can create a market for comedy. And so that's one reason. The other reason is basically you lot, as you probably know, you caused the economic disaster. You've destroyed this country, the whole lot of you. You went mad, borrowing, splurging money on wheelbarrows and organic slug pellets and the rest of it. Well, you know, and that's what's ruined the greatest economic catastrophe since the famine. That was all your fault. And as you know, that's the message that's been given across. I did my own personal survey of people's attitudes in West Cork, and I found from 2005 to 2010 I was doing door-to-door sales, and from the whole of West Cork, from Malachy's up to north of Macroom, right across to Dripsey and down to just sea south of Cork City. And the vast majority of people I talked to, and I was looking for money, so they were talking to me about money and the economy, and the vast majority of people I spoke to were saying they hated the Celtic Tiger, they hated the bubble, they thought Ireland was losing its soul. People were becoming very materialistic, and they were all shaking their heads and saying, "Nah, this is going to end in tears." And they were like me, kind of when you're standing at the ATM machine at AIB or whatever, and during that period, a little message would come up saying, 24-hour loan. And you're scratching your head wondering, what's a 24-hour loan? And is it like that you come at 4 o'clock in the morning, you bang on the door, and the manager comes out in his pajamas and gives you 10 grand, you know? Is that it? Or do you get 10 grand off on Wednesday and he wants it back on Thursday? But no, it's not. The 24-hour loan, as we now know, was you want to build a skyscraper in the middle of a bog, and the manager said, "Yeah, here you go, boy, there's 100 million, go on, go for it." And that was it, and now we're paying that money back, as we all know. So, now I've run out of what I'm saying. Notes, yes. Yes, and there was a few, I mean, as we know, there's a few voices that were saying, well, academic voices saying, oh, you know, is this such a good idea? And they were swept aside by the noisy voices. And the noisy voices are the people who could pay to have their voices heard. They're the people who could pay for advertising in the media. And the reason a minority, a small number of people did go berserk and did borrow more than they could afford was because they'd been brainwashed into it. Because every 15 minutes on the radio or on the TV and every magazine, newspaper you saw, people were saying, borrow and buy, go for it. And people did go for it. So the voices of the strong, the people with the power and the money, could get their voices heard. But the ordinary voices of the people all over West Cork and all over Ireland, the ordinary people, their voices weren't heard. So maybe we need something that provides new voices, that's not influenced by advertising. And so let's give that a go. And the other thing I was going to say, well, basically, I mean, how many people here read The Economist? It's okay, you can or Professor Stiglitz or Professor Krugman and all these people. I mean, basically, economics is boring. You know, we don't read that reason. But what if Professor Stiglitz had his stitches? What if you get cracked up reading Colin McCarthy? What if this stuff was very entertaining? It was very funny. Or what's his name? You know, we'd all be rushing out to buy the stuff. It was hilariously funny. So if you use craftsmanship, the craftsmanship of the comic writer or the artist, to present information, you can make it attractive and get a message we get across. And that's what we can do. We can use our artistic skills to make our message get across. And in lots of different ways. The pen is mightier than the sword. If it's composing music, think of Irish ballads and what they did.